So you're involved in da'wah, maybe a da'wah organization, maybe even a da'wah TV station. Is it permissible for you to receive funds from zakat? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. So one of the interesting developments in the discussion surrounding zakat and where it can be spent is the penultimate category, which is وَفِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the surah, in the ayah of zakah in surah at-Tawbah, إنما صدقات الفقراء والمساكين والعاملين عليها والمؤلفة قلوبهم والغارمين وفي الرقاب. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then mentions the وفي سبيل الله وابن السبيل. So the destitute, the poor, those that have been employed to collect it, those who are and to open the hearts of the people to Islam, those who are needing to be freed because they are prisoners, so the ransom, those who are in debt, and then those who are in the path of Allah, and then those who are traveling, i.e. in a foreign country, they don't know where they are, they're far away from home, they need financial help to get home. These are the 8 categories. So there's always been a discussion classically surrounding the 7th category, which is وَفِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, in the path of Allah. What does that actually mean? Well, we know as the majority of the scholars, and here we're talking about the majority of the Hanafis and the Shafi'is and some of the Malikis and some other scholars here and there, but certainly the majority position, that the word or the phrase fi sabilillah almost always refers to in the Quran to jihad, and that is a defense of Islam, a defense of Islam against all attacking and opponent forces. That is the majority position. They don't see any evidence to this restricted phrase to make it wider, to make it more open to other possible interpretations. What could those interpretations be? Well, if you take the actual physical phrase in the path of Allah, then it means that you're sacrificing your time for the sake of Allah, because that's what the other translation is, in the path of Allah, for the sake of Allah. And so they said that a person who goes away to study, for example, and he's not very well off and he needs funds, and he's in the path of Allah. And for example, for our women as well, especially, we know that the obligatory jihad of the women is principally Hajj, for example. So that's also seen as fi sabilillah. And so there are some other kind of the boundaries were slightly open in a second opinion, where some of the other scholars, like the Hanbalis and some of the Hanbalis and some of the other ulama, they said that yes, it is not just about arming the mujahid or supporting the one who is defending the state, but actually it is for people who are also sacrificing their time and their wealth for the sake of Allah, and they need support. So for example, the teachers, the students, the ones who are going on Hajj. And there is actually a narration which could theoretically support certainly the linguistic use of this, because there was a man who wanted to go to Hajj, and he was given from the camels that are donated for the zakah, and that's what he used to, or that's what him and his wife used to go and perform the Hajj. So there seems to be an indication that there is a connection, that the fi sabilillah is not absolutely only in the strict kind of idea of fighting. The third opinion, which is held by a minority of scholars, but contemporary scholars seem to favor a lot, is that actually fi sabilillah, in the way of Allah, for the sake of Allah, is as broad as it gets. Every single possible good, every single possible act which has a positive outcome can all be included. So that can be da'wah, organizations, and speaking to other people about the deen. It's about refuting, for example, problematic issues, refuting the enemies of Islam in their media when they lie, for example, legal cases and costs and so on, to take people to court, to hold them accountable. So many different things could come into it. And then yes, satellite stations that are promoting the deen or clarifying the truth, and other kind of matters that would generally fall under the khayr. This last opinion has found favor with a number of contemporary scholars and some fatwa boards as well. And I want to say that from my own personal point of view, I am actually disappointed with that, because this is certainly not the majority position, it is a minority position. But what's more disappointing for me is that this fatwa, and it's a valid fatwa, and we're not going to go against this fatwa, it represents a failure on behalf of the people. It's a fatwa which is basically responding to a poor situation, a poor reality which they recognize. What is it that they recognize? They recognize that people, if we were to go to them and say we want to collect money for a dawah organization, or we want to collect money for a satellite TV station, the normal kind of punter in the street, normal kind of Muslim is going to say, well, to be honest, that's not exactly emergency aid. It's not exactly the biggest priority of our time. There are people dying, there are people in war, there are people like this and so on. And they're the ones that we should focus on. And so the people are not using their sadaqah, their non-obligatory charity, throughout the rest of the year in the way that we'd want them to. We'd expect them to be able to support local initiatives and initiatives which are outside the box, initiatives which are outside the 8 categories. And so therefore you would have thought that they would be generous in that. You'd think that they have the vision, but certainly personally speaking, I know that this is actually a valid concern. People do not support those kind of ideas. People don't support the projects which would have a real impact in society or help any weak members that aren't necessarily poor or fall really technically directly into one of these 8 categories, because they don't have the PR value, they don't have the shock value, they don't really motivate the charity giver. And so what you find is that these scholars, these modern contemporary scholars and some of these boards, they want to try and change one of the set 8 categories of zakah, which should only be for the people who are out there sacrificing their lives fi sabilillah in defense of the Muslim state. That is the category which Allah intended, but they have opened it wide because of the need, because they're not seeing other good means being achieved through the normal charity. Now, I want you to think about this. If you allow people to use wa fi sabilillah in the path of Allah for these projects, what is that going to do to the problem overall? Is it going to make it better, or is it going to make it worse? For me, there's no doubt about it. It's going to make it worse. People are going to become lazy. You know how it is. If I say to you that it's allowed for you to give zakah for this satellite TV station, that will mean that there will never be a satellite TV station that's going to be established via sadaqah. Because everyone's going to say, well, you know what? I can get this great idea and get this job done through my obligatory zakah, so why would I want to give extra charity? Whereas we, as Muslims, we want to try and create an atmosphere of generosity, an atmosphere of charity. Charity should become a habit, not like a chore. Charity should not become like a punishment that happens once every year, 2.5%. We should say, this is the best and the most highest form and the obligatory form of it, and I'm going to make sure that the rest of my year is spent giving as much as I possibly can in all the other areas which are not open to normative zakah projects. So the rest of my year, my sadaqah is going to do that work. And so I want to say that I definitely follow the position of the majority. We should restrict this, the word fi sabilillah, only to that which was originally intended by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Along with the majority of the scholars, we do not include dawah organizations or TV channels or satellite channels or all these kind of out there ideas, which I have absolutely no doubt, and I'm part of many of these projects, are very, very good, but the people should support them from their voluntary funds, from their non-obligatory funds. People should really buy into this, and we need to sell it better. The failure is on us. If we were able to impress upon the people the real importance of these projects, if we were able to impress upon the people that it is in their benefit that they support these kind of dawah efforts, then they will pay for it. They will give sadaqah. But if we give them a quick, easy way out by saying, hey, all right, never mind, just give your obligatory zakah and make it as part of that, yeah, we'll slide this TV station under the 7th category and say it's fi sabilillah, then we're not creating the right environment. We're not helping the situation. Some scholars will say to me, and they'll say, but we're being pragmatic. You're not being pragmatic. You're not dealing with the reality of the situation. I'll say, I agree that I'm not solving it in the short term, but I'm thinking long term. We have to create an environment. We have to create an ethos. Our future cannot be that we want every single thing to be done under zakah. And that is why you start to now see the discussion now. Is it possible to make bridges and hospitals and medical centers and hospitals, and these kind of things out of zakah funds, because no one is supporting them. So where's this going to stop? People want to do bridges, they want to do public service works. This not only creates a level of laziness on behalf of the people and their voluntary charity, but also we're in Muslim countries and in other areas where there are Islamic authorities, what does it do to their responsibility? They're taking all the money of the land and they're not spending it in these places, knowing that the scholars will just keep giving fatwa to throw everything under zakah, so they never have to spend upon it, and the people will have to end up funding everything through their zakah. And a zakah which was in principle obligated upon the people to help the poor, in principle to help the poor, and then a few other small categories who are not necessarily poor, such as, for example, the traveler, because he doesn't necessarily need to be poor. And for example, the mujahid is actually fighting fi sabilillah, he's not necessarily poor either, but it's a praiseworthy act. It is one of the obligatory categories to give them zakah. So Allah has given this kind of right to these people, and we should protect that, in my opinion. And I know that, that seems like a almost harsh kind of rebuttal to those that allow it to be given to da'wah organizations and TV channels. But I want to say to you very clearly, yes, this is a matter of modern day ijtihad, a matter of difference of opinion where the scholars have tried their best to come to the right position. But I'm very comfortable with what I have argued. I hope that you understand what I've said. And I want you to know that the majority of the scholars are with what I have said. And that, yes, if someone wants to give their zakat to an Islamic organization or so on and so forth, and not what we are saying it's for, I would still consider that to be valid, because some scholars have indeed taken that position, and some of the modern fatwa councils have. And when a scholar or a number of scholars support a position, it's not permissible to criticize another person over that. That still doesn't stop us, though, expressing what we believe to be the stronger opinion, and what we believe to be the truth, and what we believe to be the problems with the opposing opinion. So yes, even though there's a difference of opinion on this issue, I do believe that we should try to preserve our categories of zakah for exactly what they are, that we should get our people to become very focused in the way they give their zakah, that we shouldn't make it out to them that they can give their zakah wherever they want, and that they start to become irresponsible with respect to these projects and other new projects which they should be supporting by sadaqah. So as important as da'wah is, let's get people to pull into their pockets and really start giving outside of zakah, outside of Ramadan, and supporting this deen like it should be. Because remember, when you give charity, it's not the person that you're giving it to that you're helping, it's you who you are helping. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.